in 2 weeks now, when you're gonna have to share it to judges. So just go chat. Yeah, perfect. Go for it, Lane. All right, so let's kick off since we have pretty much everybody here. So welcome back, everyone. Week 3 of the Climathon. We're really excited. We're so happy to have so many of you still here and still with us and working hard. I love watching the Discords and listening to the little ding and knowing that you guys are just pounding away at all of the problem statements and understanding your problems and starting to come up with ideas. So today we're going to focus on, go to my next slide. Today we're going to focus on what your idea was and how to test to make sure it's something that people actually want, something that people are actually going to use. Those two things are not always the same answer. So we'll talk about that, but first, as always, we will do a little stand-up from each team to just share what you've done this week and kind of what solutions you've settled on and why you came to that conclusion. So what is your solution that you've decided to focus on? How did you decide to focus on that? And if you found any relevant, interesting information or any just interesting information at all that you want to share with the group, you're again more than welcome to do that. So that's same kind of deal as last week, super straightforward, super simple. I'm just going to go down the list. If you're here for your team, throw your camera on, shout, so you pop up into the center and share with us just in about a minute or two what your solution, how you decided to focus on that, and any interesting information. So is there a team 1 person?
Hi there.
Hello.
Yeah, so I guess we were building on our idea this week of the fact that there's kind of a lot of information out there in regards to climate change and our own personal carbon footprint and how our actions affect that. And we were just working to compile, I guess, from all the different sources, actions that we can do and that we can take to help, make a difference, at least personally, and try to do our part, I suppose. But we're actually meeting with a couple of professionals, I guess, in the field, like they do this kind of thing for a living, for helping things be more eco-friendly. So hopefully we'll get more tips from them too.
Nice, wonderful. And any particular interesting information that you guys stumbled on this week? Anything that kind of went like, oh, any sort of light bulb turners?
Well, I don't know if this is actually a personal thing that you can do for most people, but when we were looking at, say, like a plant-based diet, we learned about agroforestry, where, it's encouraging farmers to plant more trees and have more biodiversity on their farms. And it's actually good for the land too. So that was really kind of cool and interesting.
Nice, awesome. I love when we get sort of tangential information. You never know when it's going to come back later. Who knows? Maybe in a year from now, one of you will be running the agroforest fund or something.
Exactly.
You never know.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks. Awesome. Sounds like you guys had a great week. Team 2 do we have a team 2 representative?
Our usual spokesperson, I don't think can make it tonight. So my name is Harry from Team 2. I was the one who commented earlier about reevaluating our problem statement. So we're focusing on fast fashion, but I think from researching and kind of talking about it a bit more, we probably didn't realize how complex the issue is. So we were talking about developing an app, but I think we got a bit caught up in the solution at the start. So now we're kind of going back to the problem and delving in a bit deeper. So we've kind of split up into different sections now for this week, and we're going to try and dive deeper into it. And then hopefully the solution will become of a result of that. So I think we've gone backwards, we've gone forwards, but we've kind of moved backwards in that kind of sense. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Nice. And was there any kind of any particular thing that you found when you started to think about this idea of having an app that made you say, hold on, wait, we gotta back up?
Yeah, I think it was just how do we get this message of kind of consuming more sustainably to the right amount of people, or how do we bring it into people's attention? Because there are certain apps out there already that are doing that, and we're like, how can we understand the problem more, and how do we bring it? I know last week we were talking about you might have to work a bit harder to bring it to who you want to do it. So I think we just realized how many different things are at play within the whole fast fashion element, but I think we've a better understanding of each other now. So hopefully this week things will tie together a bit more for us.
Yeah, awesome, wonderful. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Sometimes it's good to make a mistake because then you know what you shouldn't do. It's one of those. If you always get it right, then you never know if you actually did it right or if it's just dumb luck. For sure. So awesome. No, sounds like you guys are making great forward, backwards, progress.
We get there. We get there.
So yeah, and it doesn't always have to go in a straight line at all. Thanks so much, our team 5. Do we have a team 5 person? I hear somebody.
Yeah, I hear somebody too.
But if not, we'll come back. All right, team 6. Do we have a team 6er? There we go.
Hey.
Hello.
Bonsoir. So team 6, we had a similar issue to team 2, in that we had sort of focused around zero waste and our problem statement around zero waste, and we met up with our mentor, a lot of like a wealth of information, a lot of resources, and then so we went sort of hell for leather going in market research. Okay, what's out here? And our market research, so we'd focus a solution around developing a zero waste cafe restaurant that was sort of student run on campus, and our market research sort of showed up that this is already in place on campus. So then we're sort of brainstorming a little bit more about okay, what can we still focus around our problem statement, and other issues came up, other ideas came up, and it turned out they'd already been in place. And then we sort of realized that, okay, well, I didn't really know about this, and then our other members in our group didn't know about it, and then we sort of trying to decide, okay, well, maybe that's an idea. Like, how do we engage more people with these initiatives? Because we're all like sustainable minded people, but we don't have a connection. We didn't realize about these initiatives, so that's our idea at the minute, and trying to connect more people to these initiatives. And how do we do that? So yeah, a little bit backwards, but we think we have a good grounding on where we're going.
Nice, wonderful. And when you saw that other people were doing kind of similar to what you had been looking at, was there something that made you guys say, okay, there's enough in the market already, or what caused you to kind of take a turn?
Because so there's if anybody doesn't know, on campus there's a food space in NUI Galway, and they have a number of cafes, and they sort of run on a zero waste strategy. So we're like, well, this is something that we wanted to first introduce in Galway and then maybe scale to other universities, but it's already quite well implemented, and it looks like it would be great. And our initiative or our next solution is maybe trying to connect with them as well. So still working off that idea, but connecting more with these, bringing it back to students as well.
Nice, awesome, fabulous. So it sounds like a good, you've gone on like a tangent, and we've haven't gone completely in a different direction. So awesome, good to hear. All right, thank you guys. Team 7. There we go.
Hi, so team 7, we have a very similar project to team 6. So reducing food waste and also reducing meat consumption. So we have the problem statement, but we haven't got a single solution yet, because we were looking at a couple of different app-based solutions. But like everybody else, we realized that they exist already. And apps are a bit difficult for us because we don't have the programming experience to actually build one ourselves. So we were thinking it might be better to go for something that is more implementable, as something we could do. So yeah, we're still thinking about the direction we'd go with the solution, but it would be something probably around reducing meat consumption on campus, and also meat-based waste that comes out of it. So yeah.
Nice, cool. And did you guys have any single particular piece of information that you thought was interesting or shocking that you found during the week?
In terms of meat being a big CO2 emitter, so I think we were surprised that it's so huge. It's probably the biggest, or like one of the biggest contributors. So that was a surprise, I suppose, which is why we wanted to do something about that. But yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that is one of what I've like, it's something that I know, and I'm always still shocked when I see it. So it's definitely something people don't expect right away. So just from hearing kind of what everybody is sharing too, and we'll keep going on with the last couple. I'll talk a little bit today too about how to take what we're going to talk about in terms of validation and use it also to look for a solution if you guys haven't settled on one already. So that's more me saying it out loud, so I remember to say it later. Team 9. That was team 7, team 9. Do we have a 9er? Yeah. Team 10. Do we have a team 10 person?
Hello.
Yep.
Hi. So we started last week with re-looking at our project statement and trying to figure out the core problem with it, and then starting from there, trying to design our solution. So we narrowed it down to the customers themselves in the coffee cup industry are buying coffee cups, and the disposable world of coffee cups, no one really wants to be carrying around a coffee cup with them. They want to have a disposable cup they can just throw away. So when our solution to that was a new type of bin, it's that basically rewards you. So it's a digital bin that each cup we would get brands on board, that it was a QR code that be situated underneath the coffee cup. And if you scanned your QR code, you could build up like points basically on an app on your phone. And if you built up enough points with that coffee, like brands that we work with that would have the QR code underneath, we could then give you free coffee with that. So like a little voucher for that coffee company. And then all the cups would be fully biodegradable and compostable. And then that bin would specifically only take coffee cups that are biodegradable with this QR code, and then we'll dispose of them correctly, which isn't happening right now with the coffee industry.
Nice, interesting. And what kind of pushed you in that direction? Because it's pretty different than what you had last week, I think.
Yeah, so it was mostly that when we were looking at like inspiration from like similar kind of situations, like the straw situation with like McDonald's and stuff, it was just the people that changed that. Like the industry, they're making money, they don't want to change what's working. And it kind of has to come from the people, and that's kind of where we've switched it around to, that we need to kind of push something that's people driven, that changes kind of the culture of it, rather than trying to change companies who will at the end of it just talk bottom line.
Nice, very good, awesome. And did you find any interest? Do you have an interesting, shocking bit of information from the week, or?
Nothing past last week. No, I don't. I think most of our shocking information was last week.
Nice, cool. Yeah, that idea of the compostable things getting disposed of in the wrong place is one of my mother's favorite rants to go on. So I know all about the fact that I know all about if you throw a compostable cup into the normal trash can, it doesn't work.
It never works, but that's all the thing. That's why they put like recyclable, like you can recycle it, or it's compostable. I'm like, do people have a compost at their place. No, they don't. So it's not
My
gonna
mom
be
does, and she
magically
puts her
composted.
compostable coffee cup in it.
Yeah.
Feels very smug. So team 10 will help everybody else to follow the rules as
No,
well.
I love how you understood that. Like, it's music to my ear.
All right, last but not least, team number 11. Are one of you guys here?
Hiya,
Okay, there you
camera
go.
this week. So we decided eventually, because we were new last week, so we decided to go with our paper waste, reducing paper waste on campus and stuff like that. So we kind of delved straight into it, and I made the survey and ended up getting so many responses, and it was fab just to get that feedback. And we kind of just decided to jump into research to see how we could change the paper waste in the university, and kind of looking in Maynooth to see what their paper waste methods were, like how they actually manage paper waste. And it was kind of shocking to see that not many people had really thought about how the university had managed their paper waste. But overwhelmingly, people had to kind of come back. I asked the question, would you prefer information to be conveyed on paper or digitally? And 59.3% of people responded that they wanted digital information. So I think we're kind of steering towards making the notes, because you know how people are doing notes, everything online now. So we're kind of steering towards making that a permanent thing instead of the paper wastage that you're seeing. Because like, you know, at the end of the college year, you're probably just going to chuck everything out. So it's just a complete waste of paper. So we're kind of coming up with ways now to make it more sustainable and better on kind of the university, but then looking again, like you said, Caitlin, looking into stuff like, who does that affect at the end of the day? Like, does that affect the man who comes to fix the printer and everything like that? So we're kind of still in that R&D situation now, looking into that. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I remember you guys told me about this last week. I like this idea. So yeah, as somebody who has to print things out for their students, I like the idea of not having to print 100 copies of something.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
So awesome. Really, really nice work, everybody. It sounds like everyone is right where they should be. You're right on track. And yeah, so let's keep moving forward then. We did that. So today we are talking about validation. So you guys all have either kind of a rough idea of what your problem or what your solution is, or you have kind of a general area that you're moving towards in terms of finding a solution. And so what we're going to talk about today will fit all of that. And we'll also, even if you guys haven't, if you're in one of the groups who hasn't settled on kind of a specific solution yet, we'll talk about how you can use some of the tools from this week to kind of settle on that fixed solution. So this idea, always start with a quote, some inspiration. Nothing is as empowering as real world validation, even if it's for failure. So as I said to one of the groups earlier, that idea of if you know something is not going to work, you've eliminated something now and you know not to do it. You have that as information. It's kind of like the idea that no data is bad data. Everything is information that you can take in and you can put towards creating your solution, creating a better solution. And honestly, I think for me, if I'm going out and talking to people and saying, tell me about this product, or, you know, give me feedback on this idea, what I want to hear most about are the things that they don't like, because that's easy. That I can say, great, good, cross it off, throw it away, put it in the bin, what have you. And it's done. And I can narrow it down into what is the really core part of the product or of the solution that they like and they want to keep and that they will use. So first off, thinking, okay, what solution have you settled on? Or if you're a team that is still kind of working on that idea of what solution you want to work on, look around at kind of what are a few of the ideas that you have. All of this week is going to be about going out and talking to people about seeing if they like your idea, if they would use your idea. So if you go out and you have one idea, that's great. But even if you're going out and having a couple ideas, you're saying, we're not really sure what we want to do here. Can you help us decide which of these 3 options would you like the best? Is also a totally valid thing to do. So first off, you're going to organize the information about your solutions or your potential solutions. So this is so that you can talk to people in a way that they don't get confused, in a way that they're getting the right information and the most important information for when you're sharing them or when you're trying to explain to them what you're doing. So you want to organize the information. Think of this as kind of your sales pitch. It'll be something that you want to refer back to later, or that will be helpful to refer back to later when you're setting up your final pitch. So this can be kind of a stepping stone along the way. Excuse me. So what does your product do, or what does your solution do? What is it? What is the ideal world that this is going to bring about? And be able to explain that to people, get it down to something short, sweet, 1 sentence, really quick. If you caught somebody in the elevator, you could explain it to them. And how does it address the problem? What aspect or what cause of the problem are you fixing? So showing to people that, okay, you're not just addressing a symptom, you're actually drilling down, you've figured out the cause, and you're removing that, you're addressing that specific thing. And then be able to explain to people how it alleviates the pain point that they have. If my problem is, I don't know which bin to put my disposal or my compostable coffee cup in, if I can't find a compost bin all the time, and so I end up just chucking it into a normal one, how is this going to help me? How is this going to make my life better? Because in the end, as the stakeholder or as the user or as the customer, if it's not making my life easier, or if it's not improving my life in some way, I'm not going to do it. I have enough other things going on. I do not need extra stress or extra effort in my life. So be sure that you can explain to people, this is how it's going to make your life better. This is the bright, beautiful future that you can expect if you use our coffee cups, or if you get rid of paper. And then explain to people so that they know ahead of time, what might they have to do differently? These two should be pretty closely related, how it alleviates their pain point and what they need to do differently. Because if you're changing something, if you're introducing a solution to them, they're going to have different workflow than they did before. That's the goal, right? We want to go from that crazy messed up road map to that nice straight line. What is it that they're going to have to do differently? I'm going to have to scan it before I throw it in, but this is easier. I'm going to have to, instead of printing something out and putting it into my binder, it's coming straight to my phone. I'm going to know exactly where all my clothes are coming from without having to look for them, look for where they were made. So explain to people, this is how your workflow is going to be different. I probably use more more casual words than workflow, but this is how your process is going to be different. This is how it fits within that. And this is how all of that, again, makes your life better. Always kind of bringing it back to that idea. And then once you know all of this about your product or about your solution, start to decide on what it is you're going to be testing. So you have really 2 options here. If you've already settled on an idea, it's been pretty well supported, all of your research is pushing you in this direction, I would focus on usability. So this is it easy to use? Can people understand it? Can people kind of get into what they're meant to do right away? Is it intuitive? Is it something that I can just look at and say like, oh yeah, if I want to send, I hit the big red send button? Is it something that if I want to upload, it's very clear how I upload it, et cetera, et cetera? How do you make it, check to make sure that it's something that people don't get lost in? And then testing, okay, how does it fit into the workflow kind of when they're on the ground? Testing something in an ideal environment, when you're in a focus group or testing it with other friends, when they're just sitting down solely using whatever your solution is a different beast than having somebody out walking down the street. I would say on a bus, but we're not meant to be on buses, out walking somewhere 5 kilometers from their house. That's very different than if somebody is just focused on one thing. There are a lot more distractions. There are a lot more things that I'm multitaskingly doing when I'm using something in real life versus when I'm using it in a controlled kind of experiment laboratory environment. So making sure that it still works in that real world sense. And the last one, does it improve their day-to-day tasks? Does it do what it was meant to do? If I've made an app that I've said is going to tell me exactly when the sun comes up so that I know I can get up when it's light out and it's a few minutes off and I'm getting up in the dark, it's not improving my day-to-day tasks. It's not doing what it was meant to do, and I'm going to delete it. So checking that, is it easy to use and does it fit in the workflow on the ground? All of that kind of feeds into this idea of, does it actually improve your day-to-day tasks? Making sure it is the full package. So some of the best ways to test that is to get it out in front of people, get people using, if you have some sort of prototype for it, or talking to people who are doing the workflow now. Talking to people as they're throwing away coffee cups or as they're printing out materials for classes. Hey, in this moment, would you do this thing? Have you ever thought about this thing in this moment? So that you can, even if you don't have a prototype yet, or even if you don't have something that people could test out, you can get an idea of how it fits into that process. On the other side of the coin / slide, and this is useful for people who are either, if you've already settled on a solution or if you're still kind of searching around, this idea of acceptance. So I could come up with the best solution ever. I have made, we'll say it's an app and it is going to change the world. It's provable. I've done it in the laboratory. It changes the world. But if nobody's going to actually use it, my world, I can't change the world. So that's where acceptance comes in. Every app or every product, every solution that you introduce to somebody or that you introduce into a workflow, people are going to have to make changes to adapt to that. Even if they're changes for the better, they're still going to have to make changes. And your improvement that you give to them is going to have to be more valuable than that change they make, right? So if you think about it, my pattern, my habit has a certain value to me. Say my value of my habit is 10 euros. If your app does not return more than 10 euros worth of value to me, I'm not going to change my habit. So testing that people will make the changes needed to use your solution or to implement your solution. Also testing, does it fit within regulations? Are you going to end up breaking rules? Can you have different kinds of bins out on the streets of Dublin or streets of Ireland? I don't know actually who runs the bins in Ireland. So checking to make sure that there aren't strange regulations against what you're allowed to do. Is there something in GDPR that says I can't have QR codes on every piece of clothing? Whatever it is, making sure that you're not going to get slammed by some strange rule that is out there somewhere. And will the client or the user, will they implement? So this is the idea, kind of this fits in with the does it improve day-to-day tasks aspect, but figuring out if this is a solution that people are looking for. So if I'm not actively looking for a solution to something, even if you bring it to me, you're going to have a lot harder sell than if I'm actively out looking for it. So a good way to test for this, one of my personal favorite ways when looking for acceptance or kind of testing for acceptance, is asking people, not about my product, not about my solution, not about what they think about it at first, but say, tell me about how you are currently solving this problem. How are you currently personally dealing with not knowing when the sun comes up, so you don't know when to get out of bed? For me, I would say, well, I just don't know. I set the alarm clock and then I wake up and like do one eye out the window. I say, well, and then once you know, okay, this is how they're currently dealing with the solution. And if it's a better solution than yours, quickly jotting it down, asking them, well, have you tried to fix this problem? Have you gone out looking for options, things that might be a better solution to this? And if I say, no, I haven't gone and looked for anything about this, then start to question them there. Why haven't you gone out for this? Is it because they don't think there's an option? Is it because they've looked before and they couldn't find a solution? Start to drill down into that. And if you get enough questions in and the answer is, I just really don't care enough to fix it, then you may need to reevaluate what you're focusing on. So again, that idea of kind of drilling down into the problem, into how people feel about the problem, so that you know you're not going to build the best, most workflow fitting, regulation fitting, life-changing solution that people are just going to go, I just don't care enough to go and seek out that solution. It's like David was saying, again, referring back to David as always, David was saying before, it's far better to have a few people coming to you for the solution than you having to push it on hundreds of people. So for everybody, and this is the big theme for this week, whether you're testing usability or acceptance, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. This should be the week of talking to people. So asking people, you can get specific. How would something like my solution make your life easier? And get broad strokes on things. The more open-ended you leave the question, the more room you give people to tell you things that you wouldn't have thought to ask about. So giving them, don't be too specific, let's say, in your questions. You don't want yes or no answers. You want broad strokes. Let people ramble. Let them just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And within that, they might come to a realization of their own, or they might say something to you where it sets off that light bulb and you say, oh, this is exactly what we need. I'll give you an example from my own work. I was working on an app for measuring how people fit with jobs. And we had originally, our plan was to replace recruiters and we'll be the new AI recruiter for the world. And we were actually talking to a recruiter about what we were working on. And he said, I love this, I would use this. And what we had originally thought was our competition ended up being a massive market that we could then tap into for customers. So talk to people, let people ramble, let people give you more information than you originally came for. Also asking people along the same lines, how would this fit into your current process? Make sure that it's not adding extra work for them, that it's not throwing them off balance. What sort of changes would this require you to make? Really understanding kind of the cost benefit that people are going to have to analyze in terms of using your solution. Is, giving up my 3 times that I hit the snooze worth waking up exactly when the sun comes up? What have you? Making sure that you're not causing them more stress or you're not costing them more in the end than you are giving them back. And then asking, what else would you like it to do? If this was your solution and I gave you this bit and said you can add on whatever you want, what would they add on? Again, give them space to surprise you, give people space to tell you more information than you originally asked them for. And if you get a no, ask more questions. Trying, again, some people, even if you give them beautifully open-ended answers, they're just going to want to cut you off. So keep digging down, especially if somebody says, well, it won't work. Dig down into why is it that they think it won't work, because they're the people you're going to have to convince. And if you can convince them, you can easily convince the people who are already supportive of your idea. And if they say no, don't do the Dilbert assumption that they're just too stupid to understand it. Really dig down. If they're saying no, you've miscommunicated something, or you have an assumption that might be wrong. So don't get offended if people don't like your idea. I've had plenty of ideas that people don't like, and that we drilled down into why it was they didn't like it and made it better because of it. And organize your feedback on the solution. So again, Miro boards. This is one that I actually just set up for myself. I don't think it's a template. So go through the different parts of your solution that you're telling people and organize everything that people say. So if your solution is about my alarm clock that tells me when the sun is up, do I have to set it? Everything? Do I have to tell it where I am in the world? Whatever it is, whatever you've shared with people about your product, list it out. You want to have some structure into how you're asking, so you're making sure you're getting kind of usable, comparable information. And then list out all of the answers that you get. So I know for question number 1, these are the 5 answers that I got. For question number 2, these are the 5 answers that I got. That way you can really visually see, okay, there's a lot of negatives around question number 2. There's a lot more positives about question number 3. For the way I prefer to do it is to color code them. So give yourself like a stoplight system. So green is great. What I call yellow, and what I found out is called amber here, but it's yellow, is middling sort of information, and negative information is red. So you can really quickly say, okay, there's a lot of green in question 1. We're going in the right direction there. There's a lot of yellow in question 2. We maybe need to look at that. There's a whole lot of red in question 3. Something is going wrong. So you can really quickly organize all the information that you have. And then, like I said, you can organize it down even more. Okay, we have negatives. Here are the positives. For whatever this product is, there are a lot more negatives than there are positives. So they really need to dig into what it is they're presenting that clearly is not going very well. So again, just organizing it down, getting it into one clear place where you can just look at it and see, this is what we need to focus on now. And then you can get more detailed as well. So these are all kind of 3 sides of the same coin. But knowing who you spoke with, so that you know this was the market we looked at, or these were the sort of representatives of our market that we've looked at, because maybe the problem is the wrong market. If you're getting exactly the same information from everybody in one group, and you happen to have somebody from another group and they have a completely different reaction, so maybe your assumption then about your original market is what's the problem and not your solution so much. So organize your information so that you know, okay, this is who we've talked to, and this is what they have said. This one is for sure the most detailed of the ways to organize. So what's in this one, it has you organize out who you've spoken with, what specifically you wanted to know. So say usability or acceptance, specifically the questions that you asked, and then what is good, what needs improvement, and how are you going to fix those things? How are you going to adapt your solution to what people are asking for, or what people have shared with you they think needs to be changed, which I think is the next slide. Yeah. So once you've got all of this information collected, you're going to figure out for yourself, okay, what information here is useful. I was talking to somebody recently, and they were saying they had built this app, they built the prototype, they had done everything, they sent it out, and they kept getting information back that people just really didn't like the color, which is useful information, but not really useful information. So figure out for yourself, you get information back. What is useful information? What is stuff you actually want to focus on? What is stuff that you actually want to devote your energies to in the next week? For example, the group of jellyfish being called a smack. Interesting information. I don't know if that's actually true. but interesting information, not particularly useful. So decide what feedback you're going to focus on. What's useful? What is applicable to the actual problem? The color green of the button, not particularly applicable to the problem. The fact that it takes up too much space to download onto my phone, very applicable. What changes that people have asked for will actually have a benefit. So in the same way that you need to analyze the kind of cost benefit of them using your solution, what is the cost benefit to you of implementing whatever feedback they've given you back? If they're saying, I want it to be, I don't know, I would need there to be special bins on every single corner for me to use this. Maybe that person, you can kind of tone down their feedback a bit and we'll go every other corner. So figure out what is the benefit of the feedback that you're getting back. And what are some secondary uses of the solution you've proposed? This is where that idea of letting people sort of ramble really comes in handy. Sometimes you'll come up with a brilliant solution for one thing and it will turn out to be a world-changing solution for another. Or that there will be just sort of odd tangential uses of the product or of the solution that you've proposed. Sophie, do you remember, was it Moy, where they had made the kilns and people were putting the coffee pots on top of them or the teapots on them?
For the marketing idea?
No, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody we had talk at another event, and they had built these like furnaces for villages in, I think it was either South America or Africa, and it was to burn something and to like roast coffee and what have you. And so when they went down, they'd given them and the people said they were great, they were wonderful. And then when they went down to kind of check back to make sure that everything was going well, everybody was using the lip around the top of the kiln to put the teapot on, to boil water, to make tea while they were out in the field, while they were doing stuff. So the guy said, okay, great. Well, we can make it wider and it's easier then. And so now not only is it a kiln for roasting coffee beans, but it's also a stove. So people will like adapt what you've given them to what they need, and don't be offended by that. Embrace that and find extra uses, find kind of tangential secondary uses of the solution. All right, next one. And then again, this idea of prioritizing in a sort of high effort, low reward, low effort, high reward, there we go, grid about what people want and what people are giving you feedback on. So this idea of low effort, high reward are delightful features. They're things that are easy for you to implement, are easy for you to make changes in your proposed solution, and people will love. Versus the opposite end, high effort, low reward. Leave those for later. Probably that's the feedback you want to kind of ignore for a bit, strategically ignore for a bit. And as always, determine what you can change versus what you should change. Just because somebody has asked for it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it. So again, that idea of figure out what will give you the best benefit for the least work and what will best support your solution moving forward. So your to-do list for the week. You're going to determine who you need to talk to in order to validate your solution. So these could be people in your user group. These could be the people who are the sort of conduit to that user group. So I'll use the coffee cups guys, either people who are using coffee cups or the cafes who are the middleman of the coffee cup. Figure out who you need to talk to in order to validate your solution, and figure out what it is you're testing for. Are you testing for usability? Are you testing for acceptance? Are you testing for something in between? Give yourself a little script. So this is kind of those example questions in there that you're going to ask people so that you know I will always get at least this much information and I can easily compare it. You don't want kind of apples to oranges when you've talked to one person and you ask them one set of questions and you spoke to somebody else and you've asked them a completely different set of questions. And then go out and talk to people. This should be the fun part. You get to go out, and especially now when we're all stuck inside, going out and virtually, I hope, or with your mask on, talking to people, asking them about whether they would use it, whether they're looking for solutions in this area, whether this is something that will positively impact their life. Organize your information so that you know what you have, what it's telling you, and you can really easily move forward and make a decision. And then determine what, if any, changes you're going to make in your proposed solution. And figure out what's going to give you the best kind of cost benefit balance, what's going to bring the biggest impact to your solution with the least amount of effort on your side. And as always, set up for your plan for the week. What needs to be done, who needs to be spoken with, who in your team is responsible for what, how you're going to track that, and when you'll have your meetings throughout the week. There we go. Words. When you're going to have your meetings throughout the week so that you can make sure everybody is on the same path. You guys have been really good about that this whole time. I'm very impressed with everybody being spread out all over the place and very busy with classes, I'm sure. So I believe that's everything. Yeah. So that's everything for the week. One thing that I wanted to add on, if you're wanting to show people kind of the basics of what your solution is, pictures are always very helpful. So if you're wanting to explain kind of how the process is going to work or how the sort of pathway or the workflow is going to work, I would recommend drawing something out very simply that people can look at and say like, oh, okay, I see where this fits in. I see how this is going to reduce my process from 10 steps down to 5. I see how I fit into, especially if something big like food waste or meat consumption or fast fashion, so that people can see where they fit into this giant chain that most of which we don't see on either side, either products coming to the consumer or after we're finished with them. And also, if you want to show people some sort of basic idea of how your solution is going to work, say if you have an app or an app is a part of your thing, you can draw it out. So you can say, I'll add a template onto the list that's going into the general chat from Miro, but just really simple screens. This would be the first step, this would be the second step, this would be the third step, whether that's for an app that you have that's your kind of end product, or if it's how you're just sort of funneling people in. The same for if you're going to have something kind of web-based, anything that's electronic, which seems to be a theme for most everybody. So making sure that you can show people kind of what it is you're thinking, a very basic sort of mock-up of how you want that to flow. Cool. Any questions? As always, I've just poured information at you. So are there any questions from anybody about any of that or what the tasks are for this week? I never know if silence is
that's a good thing. That was so clear that everybody lost their ability to speak.
Everybody knows everything about product or idea validation now. Cool. So I'm going to assume that everybody is just in awe of how much information they now have. So I would say right now, as always, drop into your Discord groups for a few minutes. I got a thumbs up from Laura. Fabulous. Drop into your Discord groups, just have a quick kind of go through of what you want to focus on for this week, or a rough mock-up kind of your to-do list. And I will drop all of the information, including the slides, into the general chat as well. And feel free to ask questions if in chatting with each other, you guys realize you have something is unclear or you need more information. So I will stop sharing my screen. and let you guys go into your Discord groups there. And like I said, ask questions if you need. I will be here if you need me. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. You've been really fabulous. I think we have one more workshop and then the weekend left. So we're getting into next week. We'll get into prototyping and preparing for your pitch. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.